what I'm curious about is the role of gender in that field and in your work. And is the field open? Is there a sense of readiness for women in terms of full participation? Have you seen obstacles in that work, and what are they? So any one of you can speak to that.
Well, I think for me, speaking, I guess, on behalf of the North American Jewish innovation scene, I can tell you that that there's always been a very large percentage of Jewish women who are creating change within the Jewish world. However, there's still an imbalance in terms of the upper level positions that are available to women. Most of the major Jewish organizations that are not Jewish women's organizations in the United States are headed by men, even if everybody in the support structure everybody else in the support structure are women. Even if directors are women, for some reason the number one position almost always goes to a man. I have not necessarily tried to gain one of those particular positions, but I have been involved with a lot of projects where women are almost overrepresented in terms of the support structure and the actual day-to-day programming, but in terms of creating a figurehead for the organization as spokesperson, it's seldom a woman.
I think just to resonate with what Esther is saying, in South Africa there's a very clear split. There's still a strong sense of dichotomization between a masculine and a feminine representation in the Jewish community. For example, the concept of a female rabbi is still something that's just has no platform. Even within the progressive community, which is often seen as the reform community, there's one woman rabbi in the whole of South Africa, and generally it's not seen as a career path. So it means that women have to constantly redefine themselves in terms of what is their role in the Jewish community. And more than that, women need to feel that they can create a platform that's not just something that's for women only, but that it's actually engaging men and women in content that is relevant and that is something that really holds water and not just seen as kind of an additional frill. And sadly, the reality is that issues such as women's issues in the Torah and children and education is always kind of seen as a less of a priority in the Jewish community.
On a practical level, we don't see the same number of women playing instruments like bass and drums and what have you. And you're working at a level above in terms of managing bands and working with venues. Yeah. I'm wondering what's your role in this, and how do they receive women?
For me personally, it's been a long way to be recognized as somebody who has a real job, managing bands. I still struggle with men, especially older than me, and I'm very young. I'm 25. I've been doing this job for 8 years. I started when I was 17, and I started, of course, in the music business, not managing bands, but I started working in this business, and I kind of worked my way to manage bands. And I had a couple situations where men came up to me and saying like, so what do you have to say? Like, who are you, kind of thing. And I stay strong, and I tell them like, if you don't understand what my job is, and I'm telling you right now, you can leave and give me a person that I should contact that respects me and respects my job and then accept it. And I think men cannot really deal with that. When I take it to Jewish relations, we have female rabbis, and I think it's also a big step, in like a liberal world. If I think it's good or bad, it's not the point, but I think it's a big step. So also in the music industry, I think more women should step up and, do that job. Also more girls can, set up a band, we've been talking about that, they should do it. There's nothing to hide from.
Well, so I want to ask a question about that, because it seems that there is still somewhat of a gender divide. In some places, possibly in the blogosphere, we are seeing more women participate, though their roles may be sort of gender prescriptive, maybe. And Terry, in South Africa, more women may or may not be participating. It's unclear, and Alina is saying, well, more women need to step up. So what do we do about enabling or sort of breaking the perception that this is not a field for women, or that this is not a space where women can participate equally? What are some of the things that we can do?
I'd like to actually respond to that. Just in terms of actually saying what is happening in South Africa, and what's quite exciting is that instead of thinking necessarily about what is it that women and men are doing, there's kind of a deconstruction of what is the feminine qualities of Judaism that are now being introduced into the community. What I mean by that is that we traditionally have had quite a linear heritage of Torah learning and religious study and education being the structure, and we've started to introduce new initiatives like Limud South Africa, which is very much about the sense of all inclusion, about pluralism, about deconstructing boundaries of both gender and generation in terms of what is Jewish education. And with that has become a platform for the kind of stuff that I've done, such as integrating the arts and music into Jewish education, or bringing things like yoga and meditation, and realizing that this has been a long tradition of embodied education into Torah. So I think it's about recognizing for men that they can engage with a feminine aspect of Judaism and not feel that this is necessarily something that's alien to them. And in the same way, women then start to feel that they can reach out and not have to limit what they have to offer to small women's circles, which traditionally was the case in South Africa.
Women get the, feeling that they can express themselves and be recognized for. I think this is a certain comfort. As soon as you feel free about, getting out there, and you're a lot stronger.
So how do you enable more women to feel that way?
Well,
that's what I'm getting at. Where do we, where's the watershed moment where women finally see that they can step up?
In the past, there's been a lot of anger. There's been a lot of really taking on the system and fighting and feeling that we've kind of done hard by as women. My feeling, and just personally in terms of my own work, is that I've started in the doing. I've started in making the projects happen and being as inclusive as I can, not necessarily speaking out and saying, look, this is me, a woman doing it, but this is me doing amazing work that has foundation in Torah, and that I'm really, really urging you, not as a man or a woman or a child in terms of your status, but just as a Jew, to come on board.
If you were to say, just in a short little phrase or sentence, in your own sphere, wherever your work is or have you, what's a hope or a vision for the future for women in your sphere that you could see 5-10 years down the line as innovators? What would you hope that women would be doing, saying, being, thinking, arriving at?
Well, I guess for me, I tend to have a very naive, sometimes a very naive way of looking at the world when I look at, global conflict. I just kind of feel that we should all just try to get along. And I think that we have to realize that we all have a lot more in common than we think we do. So I would love to see a place where this isn't even a consideration, because it has to do about the most qualified or talented or dynamic person, and it's not about even where they come from or whether they're a man or a woman, or it's just about the person.
Thank you.
I think for me it's about women kind of reclaiming that sense of what it means to be a woman, so that it's not a marginalization, especially coming from both Africa and also owning the kind of feminine qualities in Judaism, the Gevurah, which is actually about strength. And seeing that is actually integral to who they are, and to celebrate that in whatever avenue they choose.
Yeah, for me it's important that girls and women feel strong, get comfortable with who they are, no matter if they're short, tall, whatever, thin, not thin, it doesn't matter. They should be really comfortable with who they are, what they do, and exchange it with other people, so they realize that they're not alone, and we're all a strong community, and we have to get stronger.
Thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts and your experience with us. I've learned a lot. I hope you have too. Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks.